Gittleman here, and I'm so excited for the First Lady of Nutrition podcast because my good friend Robyn Openshaw is with me today, who's going to talk about saunas. And she should know best because she has been a psychotherapist, a university professor, and she launched a very, very successful website called Green Smoothie Girl, and is the author of USA Today and Amazon bestsellers. So Robyn, welcome to First Lady of Nutrition. It's so good to find you again and know that you're in Florida, safe and sound. Hello, my friend.
Hi, my friend. It's so good to connect with you again since I was at your home in July. So I'm very pleased to be invited onto your show.
It's such a pleasure. Now we're going to talk about saunas today because you contacted me a little while ago and said that I had to know about this new sauna that you were involved with called Influence Saunas. Why is this sauna different and better than anything else on the market? And you're an inveterate researcher. You tell the truth, you shoot from the hip, no nonsense. So tell my listeners why Influence Sauna is the sauna of choice.
Yeah, so I started researching saunas, 15 years ago. And the reason I was researching them is that it's really the most documented, the most proven way to detoxify all of these. There's 80,000 chemicals approved for use in our air, water, and food. And we're all exposed to them. I mean, you really kind of can't get away from it. You got to breathe the air, right? So I started studying about 15 years ago. And after a year of research, and I literally met the founders of some of these companies, I came to the conclusion that there is a lot of smoke and mirrors in the sauna industry. And there's really just one most important thing. And it's the thing that most of these companies don't want you to focus on. But I found a sauna that met my specifications. Then they, had some financial catastrophes. I was involved in bringing this sauna to market. I do not own it. I don't own rights to it. I don't own the company. I own 0% stock in this company. But I was very involved in it because the problem with most saunas is they don't get hot. And that sounds ridiculous. But if you talk to the competitors of the one that I helped bring to market called Influence Sauna, which gets to 170 degrees in under an hour, and nobody's ever done that before. But it does it with low EMF and low ELF. So it has very, very low energetic toxicity, which is a major problem if you're trapped in a little box with, when you're trying to detoxify and you're, being trapped with energetic pollution inside a box. That's a problem with a lot of them. But honestly, the biggest issue is the fact that most of these saunas don't get to the therapeutic heat that the literature shows is how you detoxify and is how you get the cardiovascular benefits of exercise passively and all the other benefits of infrared sauna use that are very, very famous, and huge studies have documented this. But most of the saunas being sold in America are toxic with off-gassing glues and chemical finishes, are high EMF, ELF, but most of all, they get to, at the most, 150 degrees. And then if you get in there with a thermometer, you find out that the thermostat may say 150 degrees max, but it really only gets to about 135. So, and I don't want to name names of all the different competitors out there, but I am occasionally asked to come on a show like yours and just talk about my research on saunas. And so that's really the biggest thing. Those are all issues. I've kind of just done a flyby of the biggest issues with saunas, but the biggest thing is don't buy a sauna that doesn't get to 170 degrees.
So tell me what saunas do. I mean, I've written about this on many occasions because I've written about detoxification over the past 40 years. Number one, why is an infrared sauna better than any other kind of sauna? And can a sauna be used to detoxify virus? We're in the midst of this pandemic. And is this an important adjunct to people that want to avoid getting COVID? And is this something that can be used for treatment of COVID or any other type of virus? So it's kind of a loaded question, but it's one I want to ask.
Super loaded question. And it's actually a few different questions, all of which are really, really good. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the infrared sauna is the only sauna or the best sauna, but the reason that it's become popular in the United States is there's no steam or moisture involved. You don't have to bring in hot rocks. You don't have to do anything weird with it. You can literally get a 2-man sauna that plugs into a regular wall outlet, and there's just no mold. There's no, because that's another thing you don't want to create in your home, right? You don't want to have you know,
Yeah.
steam against walls in your house. That's just something you want to avoid. So infrared is, you know, completely dry heat, but also, and this is the thing, is some of the competitors will act like the infrared waves, the near infrared, mid infrared, far infrared, these healing waves, they will tell you that that's like the whole thing. And I'm here to tell you, if you get only one thing out of listening to me, be aware that that's the secondary benefit. That is absolutely a secondary benefit to being in a sauna. The first benefit is sweating. In fact, we like to call it river sweating. If you are going to spend the money on a sauna, go find one, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who will get in some different competitor saunas and get in at the highest temperature and they won't sweat at all. And I'm one of them. And that was a lot of my research is I finally went around and got into these different saunas. And I'm so glad I didn't buy one that I don't sweat in, because some of these companies will tell you, well, it doesn't matter that you don't sweat. It doesn't matter because the infrared waves are doing their work. And I will say that most people aren't getting these nutrients, and they literally are nutrients from the near infrared, the whole spectrum of infrared that we have traditionally gotten from the sun. I mean, people mostly just all worked outside. Everybody got exposure to the sunshine at least 6 months a year. We don't have that. Even people here in Florida where I live, you know, the vast majority of them aren't getting outside and aren't getting, it's not just vitamin D, it's also those infrared. A lot of research, I think 16,000 studies now on the benefits of red and near infrared light waves that actually are imparting nutrients. But let's don't get lost in that, because that's a whole separate subject.
No. I just want to say something. You mentioned something so important, that light is a nutrient. People don't recognize that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are aware that we need vitamin D from the sun. It actually forms a substance on your skin, and you don't want to just run in from being outside and wash it off, because it actually is, you know, there's chemical transactions going on in your skin, end up in your bloodstream and strengthening your bones and combining with vitamin K. And so, you know, when you've been out in the sun, come inside and don't immediately rinse it off. But yeah, so the infrared is important, but it is absolutely secondary to the fact that when you sweat, and there are studies that have collected the sweat of people in an infrared sauna and tested it to be chock full of heavy metals and volatile organic compounds and plastics and Roundup. Okay, that stuff goes in even if we eat only organic food. I mean, there's a lot of companies right now losing Prop 65 lawsuits when their product was certified organic, because it's in our air, it's in our groundwater. And so you can run a perfectly pristine farm at this point, but your groundwater has runoff Roundup in it. So we have to get rid of it. You know, like limiting our exposure is part of the solution, but it's very, very important to sweat. And it's also important, since you mentioned the virus, I am of course going to make no claims. I'm not even going to mention the particular virus that is on everyone's mind, but let's just put it this way. Mm-hmm. Your most important immune enhancement is getting a fever. And if you can raise your core body temperature by 1 degree, you are burning out viruses and bacterial infections. And there's nothing better that you can do. I don't care if it's a supplement. There's nothing more proven than the body's ability to create an inhospitable environment for viruses and bacteria to flourish and grow and become an actual problem and make you sick. Then raising your core body temperature, and guess what? 30 minutes in your sauna, even if you don't have it at the highest heat, because I suggest people don't start at 170 degrees, people start at 140, because when it's new for you, 140, 150 is, you know, you work your way up. I get in there at 165, 170, but I'm used to it, right? And just pour sweat and I'm done in 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. John, same thing. But if we haven't been in it all summer and we get in it in the fall the first time, you know, we might do a little bit shorter session and a little lower temperature. But bottom line is, the most well-known, well-documented, proven way to detoxify is to sweat like crazy and to raise your core body temperature. And not only does raising your core body temperature burn out virus and infection, you know, the minute my kids ever told me in the last 15 years that they have any symptom whatsoever going on, you know, I would tell them, and at this point, you know, some of them live at my house where the sauna is, and I'm not there right now. I want to get one here in Florida, but they just know. They know to go turn it on. My 4 children know it. My adopted son knows it. They just go turn it on, and it's the first thing they do. They get in, and vast majority of the time, they get up the next morning and they no longer have any symptoms. They're just fine. So it's a great, like, it's like that first line of defense thing. See, people who don't have anything in their toolkit, they don't own a sauna, they don't have their vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, they don't have that stuff. They get sick, and then they're like, oh, what was it that Ann Louise told me that I need? Or what was it that Green Smoothie Girl told me that I need? And you don't want to wait till you're sick to have these items in your toolkit. You got to have them. You got to have them in your home, so that, you know, it's the first thing you do. And then you don't end up in the situation where you end up on some drug or hospitalized and in their system, in the medical system.
So you mentioned something interesting. You know, I have never sweat in a sauna either, and I've been saunaing, so to speak, for years. So I'm so excited about getting an Influence sauna. But why did you start the research in the first place? And what concerned you about the other saunas?
Well, you know what? I had a child who was injured by a vaccine in the same year that I was injured by a vaccine. And by injured, I don't mean we got a bump on our arm and had a fever for a day. I'm talking about sick for months and months and months, and then diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when we were both perfectly fine. Mine was a flu vaccine, and then that same year, my son got the MMR, and he just nosedived, like, in and out of hospitals, emergency rooms, horrible asthma, eczema, allergies, but the asthma almost killed him several times, and I had to detoxify my family. And so I just started learning. I just went to the library and started with a stack of books as long as your arm, and figured out we needed to change our diet. And there are a handful of things that are just keepers, and that I just keep teaching people, because so many people who follow me online are like, okay, what are the most powerful things I can do? Not all the things you tried, because I tried a lot of things that were wastes of time and money, but having a sauna is the most passive, easy thing you can do. I mean, I think people should change their diet too. I think they should eat a whole foods diet, mostly plants, but and get their good fats, which I learned from you many, many years ago. But, you know, having a sauna, you know, there's an investment. It's less than people think. And there's a little space in their home or their garage they need to devote to it. But unlike running on the treadmill, it's the most pleasant experience. Like my sauna, I don't have to talk myself into it. It's so pleasant and so positive. And that's another nice thing about the infrared sauna, compared to the different kinds of saunas that people have used traditionally for hundreds and hundreds of years all over the world, is just that it's a dry heat. So it's easier to get your core body temperature up, because you're not just like, you know, we've probably all been in the sauna at the gym that's like steam, and you start to panic, and you feel like you can't breathe. This is a completely different experience. It's very relaxing. It's very, very easy to get your core body temperature up by 1 degree, and boom, you just got yourself a little mini fever and relaxed yourself to go to bed, and made your skin look amazing at the same time, and got your circulation improving, and burned up to 600 calories all at once in 30 minutes.
And also prevented cancer, because raising your core body temperature is a good cancer preventative as well. So I find that absolutely fascinating. So when they analyzed the sweat of people in the infrared sauna, what particular heavy metal did they see most predominantly?
I think cadmium is at the top. And by the way, since you mentioned cancer, I'm not going to make any claims there either, but there is a book by Dr. Yoshimizu called The Fourth Treatment for Medical Refugees. And it's basically his story of, as a physician, being sent all the cancer patients after they flunked out of chemotherapy and radiation, and their doctors were like, sorry, you should go home and die now. And what a powerful experience he had with getting them well with infrared. So cadmium, probably number one. And if I recall, lead and cadmium are the biggest ones, but you can help eliminate mercury, aluminum, a lot of different heavy metals, but I believe cadmium and lead are the top two.
Well, that's so interesting, because cadmium is responsible for more cancers than any other heavy metal combined. So this is an excellent preventative. What do you do after you sweat? Do you have to take an electrolyte mixture to replenish your missing minerals?
You can, and I'm more a fan of just drinking some coconut liquid or whatever. But when you're in the habit of it, just make sure you stay hydrated. Drink a big glass of water before you even go into the sauna. I personally don't do any electrolytes or worry about that. But if you find you have different like issues with fluctuating cell salts, or if you feel strange at all, it certainly isn't going to hurt you to drink some electrolytes instead of water.
So if you were to discuss all the major health issues that an infrared sauna, particularly the influence sauna, is good for, we discussed detoxification. Can you speak to the cardiovascular benefits and even weight loss for a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that people should know about what's happening when you get in your sauna is that raising your temperature and being in heat like that causes your body to produce heat shock proteins. And there's lots and lots of research on this, and it puts your body into a state of hormesis, which is sort of loosely defined as a positive stress. And you might think, wait, stress is bad for me. No, chronic bad stress is bad for you. When you lift weights, you're actually creating a form of hormesis, right? You're actually tearing down small muscle fibers. That mild stress actually builds healthy, strong muscle. Lots of different types of or applications of this principle of hormesis is what builds your immune system, right? Exposure to different toxins or like viruses and bacteria is how you build your immune system, especially as an infant. So people who think that we should just all go sit in a bubble and come out when COVID is over, they don't understand at all. And I know that you've probably talked to your audience about this plenty, but hormesis is that mild stress and it's building your immune system. And so it's basically preventative of all kinds of things that might take you down. There are cancer applications for heart disease. Whether you have heart disease or you're just trying to prevent it, you're creating that hormesis that strengthens all your vessels. We think of the heart, and we think of heart disease, we think of this central organ that's pumping, but it actually has all these downstream effects into the liver, and the lymphatic system is strengthened, and the veins and the arteries are strengthened as we are pumping blood to the extremities. And the evidence of that is the skin pouring off sweat, right? That's because so much stimulation of the cardiovascular system. So it's positive in so many ways. And if I had to sum it up with one word, it would be hormesis.
Like that. What about weight loss?
Yeah, so there's a JAMA article, Journal of American Medical Association, the most prestigious medical journal in the world, I think. About 20 years ago, did a study and actually said that it appears from the research, and this was a survey of all the published literature, it appears that infrared sauna use is as powerful as exercise. And, I do both, right? And I wouldn't ever tell somebody, okay, you can stop exercising now because you have a sauna, because I still think getting outside and working your muscles is important. But in terms of cardiovascular benefit, you're raising your core body temperature, like I said, but you're also raising your heart rate. And so I have a resting heart rate that people usually have to take it like 3 times because they think I'm dead. It's like, 48 or 50.
Wow.
And you're probably the same.
No, I'm not. I'm much higher.
Really? Yeah. So I go from 50-ish resting heart rate to about 90 in the sauna. And that's what you're trying to get from your going for a jog too. Like I went for a jog this morning for an hour. I live right on the ocean, and I just jog along the ocean and get all the health benefits of the calming, looking at the ocean. This has been a stressful last year, right? But in the sauna, we are raising the heart rate, and then what happens is that it's a very calming effect afterwards. But you're getting that mild stress that builds your cardiovascular health.
See, I love that. Now, I wrote a book called Radical Longevity, and it's all about all the wonderful things you can do to have a fearless, a fearless approach to getting older with more resilience, with more grace, and more vitality, with more freedom. And I know that there must be anti-aging effects to sauna as well. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that because I've got your book here. Thank you for sending it to me. And yesterday I was doing a Facebook Live about our green smoothie challenge, and I had my husband come sit down and tell my audience, you know, how green smoothies have benefited his life. And I always, when he sits down, I have to make a joke about the fact that I know he looks 25, but he's not. Because otherwise, I think people just look at him and they're like, how could she be married to this 25-year-old? And I just have to always like preempt it and say, he's actually 40. And so then I kept talking about anti-aging, and he was just like, why are you just like going on about this aging thing? And I'm like, because that's what my audience cares about. You know, and it's not that we don't want to get older, because we like the life experience and the, you know, not giving a shit about things that don't matter and all those things that come with getting older. Like, I love being 54. And I'm looking forward to being in my 60s. I think that people in their 60s are just like, they're international treasures just from what they've lived through and what they have to contribute in their mind. However, we do live in this culture where we're worried about aging in a healthy way. And so there are a lot of documented health benefits, and some of them are the skin, right? And your skin is really going to benefit by eliminating those toxins, because when the skin is the barrier holding the toxins in, you can imagine the damage that is done there. And then, you know, so many of us women, we put stuff on the skin too that not only holds the toxins in and clogs up the pores, which your sauna is going to open up the pores. I mean, it's super simple. I mean, you guys want me to tell you something really, you know, sciencey, but opening up the pores and dumping out sweat is just the best thing you could possibly do for your skin. I mean, a lot of you are using exfoliants, and a lot of companies are creating exfoliants that are scrubbing your skin. I got home, my daughter, I think I feel safe that my daughter won't watch this show. I got home to Utah for a couple of weeks, and she picked us up at the airport. It was late at night, and she said, "Don't look at me." And I was like, "What do you mean, don't look at me?" And she's like, "Well, I got this chemical peel that my friend," and I was like, "You're 25. You are 25 years old. Do you know the damage you're doing to your skin with these chemical peels?" So listen, a lot of the things that we're told to do to help our skin, I mean, I just, so counterintuitive that you burn your skin off with chemicals to give yourself healthy skin.
And the other thing that's very counterintuitive is doing tattoos, which affects the immunity of the skin. And look at all the young people that are tattooed up their arms, their legs, their face, their hands. So the tattooing is another issue that I think needs to be discussed in another time. I don't disagree with you one iota. People just don't know what to do with themselves anymore. But I love the anti-aging benefits. And then, of course, the weight loss benefits, the detoxification benefits, the cardiovascular benefits. Are there any other benefits to autoimmune issues, do you think, Robyn?
There are. I'll give you a link, and you can put out a little webinar for your folks that kind of reviews all the benefits. But there, if we go deeper, there are studies that show benefits for even autoimmune diseases like diabetes. So the science on sauna use is both old and exploding new, especially infrared saunas. So because in North America, that is becoming the method of choice to get these benefits of hormesis and stimulating the cardiovascular system and getting passive exercise. I mean, a lot of people who follow me cannot exercise. You know, they have joint issues, or they feel like I can't, or they don't want to. They don't want to go to a gym if they're, you know, 80 or 100 pounds overweight and they feel self-conscious. Well, start with a sauna. But yes, along with those things comes almost invariably autoimmune diseases, and detoxifying is, you know, I can't say that detoxifying will cure every autoimmune disease. I can only say that you can't get well from an autoimmune disease without detoxifying. Does that make sense?
No, I agree with you 100%. A lot of these autoimmune diseases are based on childhood trauma. So that leads me to something else. When people are heavily sweating, do they start to detoxify emotions that can be embedded in the tissues as well?
Very good question. And I do not think I've seen any research about that. But I will say that a lot of times we get in our sauna at night because people are always asking us, well, when should I get in it? You should get in it whenever works for you in your schedule, right? Like sometimes my sauna is right next to my little fitness room where I have my cardiovascular fitness equipment and I work out for an hour in the morning. And sometimes I turn the sauna on and when I'm done with my workout, I get right in the sauna. But more often than not, we do it right before bed. And the reason is that it's so calming. And we go to bed and we just sleep so well. Like my skin pinks up and my skin looks amazing. Like I feel like I should just go out on the town because my skin looks so good. But the biggest benefit for me of doing it at night is that then you're just ready to relax and sleep deeply.
Oh, I like that. I like that idea. And I didn't even think of it. I was thinking to myself, where am I going to fit this into my schedule with my new sauna? And I've got to be able to actually do this in a way that makes sense. Well, I like
you know what else you can do, because I'm the same way. Like I can't fit more things into my schedule, is that I have a certain amount of content that I need to listen to. And we don't put the Influence Sauna does not put Wi-Fi in their saunas for the obvious reason, right? We don't want to trap you in a small box with a bunch of EMF. However, it does have Bluetooth. And so I'll turn on a podcast that I was going to listen to anyway and put it on 1.5x. Or if I'm fried at the end of the day and I don't want any content and I don't want to be learning, I just want to be, coming down, I'll turn on music. But you can multitask in your sauna. I take books in there. The only problem is that the sauna melts the glue and the binding of the book. So just make sure that if you're going to take a book in there, that you're willing for the binding to fall apart. But mostly what I do is I turn on a podcast and then I put my phone outside the sauna because you don't want to overheat your phone. And then the Bluetooth brings the sound into the sauna and I'm just sitting there downloading information while I detoxify.
So have you had different types and brands of saunas over the years? Can you speak a little bit to that? Have you had real personal experience with everything else that's on the market?
I have had a HealthMate sauna. The problem is that company was in financial trouble and they got acquired by a piano company. And all the people who I knew and trusted there left the company. So that's how some of the people who left there, an engineer and the manufacturing guy, and I collaborated and said, well, what would we want if we took the HealthMate sauna, which I liked because it got to 170 degrees, unlike most of the others out there. And I said, let's make a sauna that is the best priced sauna out there, that's completely free of wood glues and is sprayed with nothing. There's no toxicants sprayed on the wood, and that's made with cedar because...
Oh, I was going to ask that. I just interviewed Eric Zielinski. We were talking about cedar. Wow. Excellent choice.
Yeah, because a lot of these cheap saunas are made with porous white woods, and that's because they're cheap, but cedar won't mold. And so you want that because you're going to sweat. Like my husband has a puddle under him when we get done in the sauna. And I keep toweling myself off. I don't necessarily have a puddle under me, but one of the competitor saunas out there does not even make me sweat at all. And I do, when I used to take people to Switzerland until, all this stuff started happening with travel in March of 2020. And now I don't feel like I'll be able to get on a plane and go there anymore. But I took people to a clinic in Switzerland to do liver detoxes for 8 years straight. I did it once, sometimes twice a year. It was always sold out. It was such a wonderful experience. Well, I got there the last year before we had to cancel them all in 2020. But in 2019, I got there and they had just invested in 2 saunas by a competitor brand that is not only the most expensive, and they are beautiful saunas. They're gorgeous. They're designed very well, but they don't get hot. And I got in there every single night that I was there. I was there for 3 weeks. I got in the sauna every single night because you have time when you're away in Switzerland, and that's what we're there to do is do a detox, right? I got in there for 45 minutes and never one time did I drop a single drop of sweat. Now, to me, that's a time waster.
What good is it?
Right.
So
yeah, and what that
clinic,
company will tell you, I'm, intentionally not using company names because that's not my goal.
No, I appreciate that.
But what they'll tell you is because they have to constantly combat the fact that some people are awake enough and have done their homework enough that they know that they want to sweat in their sauna, or people who have already bought it and they're like, I don't understand why I don't sweat in here. And what that company will tell you is it doesn't matter. The infrared waves are doing their magic. It's just not true. It's not true. You do need to sweat.
So the clinic in Switzerland, are you talking about the Paracelsus clinic?
No, Paracelsus means, I think it means hospital in German. So there's lots of different, but I think you're thinking of the ones that Thomas Rau founded, and he did found this one and the one in the north. So there's one in the north of Switzerland and one in the south of Switzerland. And he no longer owns either one of them, and both of them have changed their name. But what it's called now is the Swiss Mountain Clinic.
Oh, yes. No wonder I never hear about it anymore.
Yeah, they changed their name because they're no longer affiliated with Dr. Thomas Rau, but he was the founder of both of them. And the one in the south, the Swiss Mountain Clinic, I went and researched at 20 clinics all over the world to study what people do to treat cancer non-toxically, because I was going to write a book about it. And I ended up not writing the book. That's a whole side story we'll set aside. But my favorite place I found all over the world, obviously, since I went back 8 years in a row, is this place now called Swiss Mountain Clinic. So
would this be the place that many of my clients went to for dental work?
Yes. Yep. They don't necessarily do it right there on site, but they have partners that they, will have people deal with, cavitations and root canals and those different issues. So that's very much something they look at. I mean, it's practically day one, you walk in and they're like, in fact, I think you have to take your bite wings or your images so that they can see, there's no point them treating your autoimmune disease or your cancer or whatever when they're not looking at what's going on in your mouth, because root canals and cracked metal fillings and cavitations and the like are at the root of so much of our misery and disease.
Yes. And hidden dental infections is one of the downloads that we give out to anybody that orders the book Radical Longevity, because it's so essential to overall health, and it can influence aging as well as autoimmune conditions. So to start ending up our lovely interview, Robyn, what would you tell somebody that has all these conditions, whether they've got a weak heart or they're interested in weight loss, certainly detoxification? How would you start in the Influence Sauna?
Well, I talked to them and they are willing to give your followers $700 off any sauna, which is pretty great. And I think there are some freebies with it, but you can link them to it so they can get in on that deal. But you can get a sauna for less than $4,000. And I believe they're even going to give you free shipping. So check the link.
Would you make sure we have all those links?
Of course.
That's so excellent. And so where can people find you, my dear? greensmoothiegirl.com?
Yes, greensmoothiegirl.com. I am Green Smoothie Girl on Facebook. And, our colleagues are being deplatformed right and left. I just got out of Facebook jail yesterday. My freedom work, I have been very, very vocal. Yesterday, I did a Facebook Live calling out lots of our colleagues for pushing experimental medical products on people, which I think is inappropriate. If you're into that kind of work, my other jam the past year since we first heard the word COVID is takeactionforfreedom.com.
I love it, takeactionforfreedom.com. Well, I want to applaud you for all the work you're doing. Detoxification and freedom, and certainly enlightening us as to the benefits of the real type of sauna and how important it is to sweat, which you can do in the Influence Sauna. And we'll be sure to put that link at the bottom of the show notes. So would you come back again? Oh, Freedom Girl, Green Smoothie Girl.
I would love to. And Louise, it's always wonderful to connect with you. And so thank you for giving me an opportunity to share some of my research on saunas with your followers.
Oh, what a pleasure. And how refreshing that you tell the truth. You're a purveyor of truth, Robyn Openshaw, a real purveyor of truth. And
that is the goal.
That's the only goal. We don't have time to fool around with anything else. So I want to thank all of you for listening once again to First Lady of Nutrition podcast. I want to also thank my new sponsor, cshealth.com, cs-health.com. Remember that hyphen, cs-health.com. They're the makers of Vitalica and Vitalica Plus, which is the only activated sulforaphane product on the market. So next to your Influence Sauna, you've got to be keeping this wonderful sulforaphane product because it's so important for phase 2 liver detoxification and for the health of your beautiful skin after you detoxify. So thank you once again for listening. I want to wish you all a happy and healthy week with lots of love and lots of shalom, peace, health, and vitality. See you next time, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Louise here with just one more thing. Thank you so much for being a fan of my work. And if you like this video, please check out all my other videos. Please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications.